Okay, we're gonna see if I can walk and talk. And I take these videos on my this is like an old Motorola phone, and sometimes it doesn't jive with the audio. But I'm just walking down to the beach. There's a storm coming, and I just had a couple ideas, so I thought I'd share them very quickly. So I woke up this morning and I had a brief conversation with my dear friend Cindy. If you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, it's Cindy Lou Who. And she reached out to me a couple months ago, and she wanted to process her story out loud but wasn't ready to do it on YouTube. And so if you look back in the archives of my videos, her story was under the name Jill. So if you want to keep up with how she's doing, she's literally exiting the cult in real time right now. Right now. And so check out her channel, send her some really good vibes and a hug and love, and just be really kind to her because she's extremely brave, and she's jumping out of the see, I think this video thing doesn't work when I walk. Anyway, we're talking. I said, how are you doing today? And she said torn, because she's getting all this super conditional love bombing. Here we are. And sunrise. And so as we were talking, I thought of how the Watchtower identity is kind of like layers and layers of paint. And the color of the paint is new light. What would that be, like a shade of blue? Like maybe this sky? Layers and layers. But it's lead paint. It's not safe. And if you've ever done like a painting project where you've had to scrape paint off a wall, it's messy. And some people would just rather throw on another coat than actually do the work of going down to the foundation, to the surface. And that foundation is you, your identity. Who are you? But we can't blame or fault those who aren't ready to start the work of peeling the layers of paint. So that was just kind of one thought, but the other thought was, especially this week, this whole last week, they've been doing this series on NBC, whatever, a TV channel, interviewing survivors of horrible child sex abuse. Silenced No More, I believe, is the name of the show. And I actually haven't seen it. I don't know how I can watch it. Is it on YouTube? If so, will someone please put in a comment the link? Because I've only seen advertisements for it. I haven't seen the actual episodes, and I really want to. Silenced No More. And so the heat is being turned up with that. The heat is being turned up with the Zulkin law firm and their press releases, and those two brave, courageous victims who've come forward. I hope the wind noise isn't too much. If it is, I'm sorry. And so imagine you're making popcorn, and you throw all these kernels in the pan, like stovetop popcorn, and you throw all the kernels in the pan, you put some oil in the pan, you turn the heat up, and for the first couple minutes, nothing. And then there's a few pops, and then there's a big pop where the majority of the kernels pop, and then just a few more stragglers, and then you realize you have to dump it in a bowl and get the popcorn off the heat, otherwise it's all gonna burn. And what's left in the bottom are a few of those crunchy, hard kernels that just won't pop. Maybe some of our family and friends are just those hard kernels that like to just sit in that Watchtower oil and not pop. like how I feel when I popped a few years ago was like, why me? Why now? Like, I wanted to be with all the other kernels that hadn't popped, but like I said, the heat is being turned up and there's going to be a big pop. And people like me, people like Cindy, all the rest of us are just going to be there to love them unconditionally and listen to them, help them through those phases of confusion and grief, and go back to the foundation of being us as individuals rather than the groupthink. The last thing I wanted to share, I'm going to keep this short, is about Lyme disease. So if you see behind me, so I live in Wisconsin and there's lots of forest like this. And it's interesting when I talk about like my journey of waking up. I think I would have to say part of the prep work for it even being possible started with self-care in the form of going to a naturopath, because I was just having these symptoms. I thought it was always depression, and I'm sure that was part of it, but my symptoms were just heavy brain fog, where I'm like, I know I'm relatively intelligent, but it was just like debilitating brain fog, needing to sleep. Like, if I could have, I would have slept 16 hours a day. I just was always exhausted, and joint pain. And so I've gone to naturopaths and chiropractors and holistic health practitioners basically my whole life. It's my jam. And I found this lady in Milwaukee. If anybody needs her number, I'd be happy to. She's the real deal. She's major league. So I went down there and we started, I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. I started treatment and we did a bunch of blood tests and all these different tests, and it came out that I was carrying several of the co-infectors for Lyme disease. So when a tick bites you, you think, oh, it's just this nasty bug and you get Lyme disease. But what is Lyme disease? It's a co-infection of like 9 different virus, bacteria, and parasites. And what this cocktail of infection does when it enters your system is, there's a really great documentary, it's called Beneath Our Skin. Beneath Our Skin, watch it. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, you very may well have Lyme disease, or someone you know and love has it. It's, I believe, one of the greatest undiagnosed epidemics of the 21st century, period. I could talk for quite a while about Lyme disease. And so what happens is you know, this tick burrows and it does this exchange with your body, and you get infected with anywhere from 1 to 9 of these various co-infectors. And it might be more than 9 now, I don't know. Bartonella, Babesia, like all these nasty bugs that take up residence in your body. And they'll hide out and they'll disguise themselves and they'll cover themselves with biofilm, and some will attack, you know, some people it attacks the central nervous system, others the reproductive system, others, I mean, your bones. It's different for everybody, which is why it's really difficult to get a proper diagnosis these days. Very few doctors really understand Lyme disease. How this all relates to cults, because in my brain it seems like everything relates to cults, at least for now, is the Watchtower is like that tick. You know, we're all just walking through the woods of life, and we brush up against someone sharing a Watchtower or a Live Forever book or whatever, and that's like the first contact with the tick. And we don't have any symptoms at first, but then 6 months later, a couple years later, you're feeling brain fog and joint pain and depressed, and you just want to sleep. And it's that co-infection of brainwashing, indoctrination, new light, like all these variables, and treating it is different for every single person. But the one cure is unconditional love. I didn't come down here with a script, so I don't know if that made any sense to anybody. But going back to like actual like real Lyme disease, when I was doing the treatment for it, we would think that we got it all. Like, okay, we got that specific virus, we targeted it, we killed it, we zapped it. But then like a couple months later, I would go back and it would be like it was somewhere else. It was like I was always chasing this terrible Lyme disease. And I don't believe that that's going to be something I'm going to have to deal with forever, but maybe it is. So that was kind of what I was talking about yesterday as far as like the cult identity. Yes, we shed it, and we're like lobsters. We're just these. I was watching one of my favorite YouTube videos. It's only, I'll put the link in the description below. It's only, oh, I'm already at 10 minutes. I'm sorry. It's this old Jewish rabbi talking about how to not stress and how do lobsters grow. He's like, lobsters are just these mushy bodies inside hard shells. And when they're growing, they'll get uncomfortable because they're too big for their shell. So they'll have to go under a rock and shed their shell and put on the new shell. And that's where we all are. And you don't just do it once. You don't just, oh, great, I escaped a cult. I have this new lobster shell. I'm good to go. It's like, it's going to be constant, and that's life. It's exciting, and it's, so being, like when you have your shell, then you can be a rock. You can be a safe place for that other lobster who is just starting to realize that it's really uncomfortable being in the Watchtower shell. And so we take turns being rocks and finding rocks, you know, true friends whom we can, you know, kind of hide under and be protected by as we put on our own shells. And it's just this constant paying it forward, being shoulders to lean on, etc. So that's my little word picture of the day. Ticks, lobsters, popcorn, and paint. I love Sundays because I don't have to go to the Kingdom Hall. I'm actually having breakfast with my parents who don't shun. Love you, Mom and Dad. And some other XJWs who are not from around here, so you can't figure out who they are. But they actually left 20 years ago, so we'll have a great breakfast with them. They've had a beautiful reunion with my parents, and so we're going to enjoy some breakfast. And then I'm going to a work picnic, the restaurant where I work. So I hope the front of the house doesn't kill the back of the house, or vice versa. Restaurant wars. Okay, I love working in the restaurant. It's a pirate ship. It's a pirate ship. Tip your servers if you go out to eat. All right, shalom. Bye.